The world gasped as headlines screamed the unthinkable Queen Camilla barred from future state events by royal decree. But this wasn't a media spin or a minor misunderstanding. It was a direct decision by the Royal Commission, an ancient body rarely seen in the spotlight. What triggered this shocking move? And why now? The palace walls are whispering. And it's far worse than anyone imagined. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. It began with a series of alerts flashing across global news networks breaking Royal Commission acts against Queen Camilla. Anchors struggled to keep up with the fast-moving details, and social media descended into frenzy. The phrase Royal Commission trended for the first time in modern memory, prompting many to ask what exactly is this body with the power to overrule the Queen Consort? The answer only deepened the mystery. Quietly embedded within the British constitutional framework, the Royal Commission is a rarely invoked assembly of senior figures whose sole purpose is to preserve the Crown's dignity, cohesion, and continuity. Their existence, mostly ceremonial in past decades, had now become weaponized, and their target was Camilla. Her public image, long shadowed by past controversies, had been under careful repair since her marriage to Charles. For years, palace press offices had worked tirelessly to recast her as a loyal consort, a unifier, and a modern face of royalty. But that fragile image was already showing cracks. Behind closed doors, insiders whispered of increasing friction with senior royals, questionable protocol breaches, and a tone of entitlement that worried the commission. It wasn't one single act that pushed her over the edge, it was accumulation. And then, without warning, the commission voted. The vote itself, carried out behind locked doors in a location kept secret from the public, was reportedly unanimous. Only the king was informed in advance. Not even Camilla was granted the courtesy of a forewarning. The official communiqué, brief and clinical, was delivered to Buckingham Palace at dawn. By joint resolution, Her Majesty the Queen Consort shall no longer be invited to represent or appear at official state ceremonies until further notice, in accordance with the Commission's duty to preserve institutional harmony. The phrasing was deliberate, no mention of punishment, no direct blame. But the implication was clear: Camilla was being quietly erased from the ceremonial future of the monarchy. The palace, caught off guard, offered no immediate response. For 2 days, no public statement came from Charles or his courtiers. Not a single royal stepped forward to defend her. And in that silence, speculation festered. Was this exile? A betrayal from within? A tactical removal? Or something more personal? The commission had made its move. The monarchy had blinked, and Camilla stood alone, stripped not of her crown, but of her ceremonial purpose. But to understand why the commission moved so ruthlessly, we must go behind closed doors into the final event that pushed everything over the edge. It was meant to be a celebration of British diplomacy. Instead, it became a war zone in silks and crowns. During a glittering state banquet at Windsor, something unfolded, something so humiliating, so politically disastrous that insiders whispered it was the beginning of Camilla's downfall. What did she say? Who did she offend? And why did the cameras mysteriously cut during the Queen's toast? The grand ballroom shimmered with historical weight. Dignitaries from across the globe had flown in to honor a rare moment of alliance between the Crown and a controversial foreign regime. A regime, many whispered, that had long been criticized for its human rights record, yet was now being welcomed by Britain's highest ranks for strategic leverage. It was always going to be delicate. The seating arrangements, the speeches, even the menu had been vetted by advisors, linguists, and diplomats. Every moment had been choreographed until Camilla veered off script. As the king raised his glass, Camilla leaned into her microphone for what appeared to be a private aside, but was caught on a hot mic. A careless joke, laced with sarcasm, referenced the visiting leader's notorious past. The guest froze. An audible pause swept across the room. And then came the gasp, sharp, unmistakable from Queen Catherine. What followed was an unsettling silence, broken only by the clinking of glassware and awkward throat clearing. The cameras, broadcasting the event to media outlets globally, abruptly cut transmission. No explanation given. Within minutes, palace aides were seen whispering frantically, shuffling around the head table. Prince William, who had been maintaining the usual diplomatic calm, turned visibly stiff. His eyes locked onto Camilla with a glare that betrayed fury. It wasn't just embarrassment, it was something deeper, something personal. By morning, the damage was irreversible. The visiting delegation left Windsor with icy farewells, and a formal diplomatic letter was delivered to Downing Street. The press, initially kept at bay, caught wind of the incident through an anonymous leak. While headlines were restrained, palace insiders began quietly speculating that this wasn't just a social gaffe, it was a direct insult. And behind the palace's gilded doors, a more serious development had begun to unfold. Rumours suggested that Queen Catherine, though always restrained in public matters, had formally raised a private concern with the Royal Commission. Not a complaint, not an accusation, but a measured statement. The Queen Consort's actions had compromised the monarchy's neutrality. For the Commission, that changed everything. This wasn't just about Camilla's words, it was about her judgment, her role, her place in the future of the monarchy. The banquet, once planned as a showcase of unity, had instead revealed a fracture, and the cracks could no longer be hidden under layers of protocol and pearls. But what made this banquet blunder irredeemable was not the offence, it was the pattern of behaviour it revealed. For years, Camilla cultivated the image of a supportive consort. But dig deeper, and a different story emerges, one of whispers, icy receptions, and strategic exclusion. The banquet was just the latest in a series of veiled jabs, many aimed at Catherine and the next generation. Had Camilla always felt threatened, and was this her way of fighting back? Behind the polished smiles and royal waves, there simmered an unspoken war, quiet, calculated, and cold. Camilla, once cast as the outsider who'd fought for legitimacy, now stood at the pinnacle of royal power. But Catherine's rise, with her seamless poise and magnetic public approval, cast a long shadow across that throne. The Queen Consort's charm began to feel rehearsed, her warmth conditional. Insiders recounted moments subtle, but impossible to ignore. At a royal charity gala, Camilla deliberately arrived late, forcing Catherine to step aside during a photo lineup. At another event, Camilla's speech was mysteriously extended, cutting Catherine's planned remarks altogether. To the public, it was decorum. To palace staff, it was design. And then came the leak. A 17-second audio clip, captured by a servant's misplaced phone, revealed Camilla in a private gathering, mimicking Catherine's voice with mocking precision. The room erupted in laughter that included 2 senior aides now reportedly dismissed. The tape was buried as quickly as it emerged, but not before it was reviewed by key figures within the palace. One of those figures, sources suggest, was Princess Anne, who allegedly referred to it as unforgivable and unworthy of a queen. This wasn't a momentary lapse. It was part of a pattern, an attempt to destabilize Catherine's standing, not with scandal, but with snubs, with silence, with subtle sabotage. Camilla's dominance extended further. Royal initiatives she spearheaded in recent years conspicuously excluded Catherine, despite their shared interests in children's health and domestic safety. Even joint appearances became rare, replaced by solo outings and carefully timed photo drops. It was clear Camilla wasn't just asserting her space, she was pushing boundaries. And someone was watching. Queen Elizabeth, even in her final months, seemed to sense the coming storm. In a private letter reportedly addressed to William, she wrote cryptically of preserving the soul of the monarchy and keeping the crown pure for what lies ahead. The message was vague, but the timing weeks before her passing has only intensified its mystique. Some now believe it was her last warning, a final attempt to guide the future away from the very conflict that would soon explode. And the Royal Commission had not been idle. They had seen the cracks forming, the subtle exclusion, the snide remarks, the invisible lines being crossed. While the public remained dazzled by titles and tiaras, the Commission tracked behaviour, tone, and intention. Camilla's actions, once dismissed as palace gossip, were now being recorded. And when the banquet scandal landed, it wasn't viewed in isolation, it was viewed as culmination. And then came the smoking gun, a dossier delivered in secret, sealed with the royal crest. At 4:12 a.m., a senior aide delivered a leather-bound file to the Royal Commission. Its contents have never been made public, but insiders claim it contained a collection of surveillance reports, private correspondences, and transcripts, many implicating Camilla in a quiet campaign to undermine the next queen. The timing? Not a coincidence? The delivery wasn't routine, it was calculated. Just hours after the Windsor banquet scandal erupted, this dossier landed in the hands of the only body powerful enough to override royal protocol. The Royal Commission, an assembly known more for tradition than intervention, was now at the heart of a storm. But what they received wasn't just speculation, it was a timeline, a trail, a roadmap of quiet manipulations that suggested Camilla hadn't just stumbled into conflict with Catherine. She may have orchestrated it. The file, rumoured to be over 80 pages long, allegedly originated from someone deep inside the palace. Theories point toward two figures, Princess Anne, long a guardian of tradition, and Prince William, whose composure during the banquet had concealed a deeper calculation. Among the dossier's contents were handwritten instructions from Camilla's senior staff, marked with her initials. One note, dated several weeks before a joint charity event, read simply, "Ensure Catherine's entry is rerouted, arrive 5 minutes after her." Another, "Cancel her floral presentation, keep focus on my speech." These weren't mistakes or oversights, they were maneuvers, coordinated, deliberate, and designed to chip away at Catherine's stature. But it didn't stop at notes. According to Commission sources, the dossier included time-stamped security footage showing Camilla speaking to a palace footman. Her words were quiet but unmistakable. "Hold her in the corridor. We'll begin without her." But the most damning element wasn't about Catherine, it was about Charles. A series of memos written by Camilla's aide-de-camp included the phrase "fragile condition" underlined 3 times, alongside a cryptic bullet point. Plan needed succession acceleration. No context, no names. But within the royal world, language is everything. And those words, succession acceleration, sent shockwaves through the Commission's chamber. Was this merely concern for the king's health or something far more sinister? Within 24 hours, the Commission convened in an undisclosed location. No phones, no aides, just 12 senior figures reviewing the file, piece by piece, in silence. There was no media briefing, no public knowledge of what was unfolding behind those ancient doors. But inside the palace, tension crackled like static. Staff were reassigned, access codes were changed, and within royal circles, one phrase kept circulating like a virus: "Is this treason from within?" Not in the traditional sense, but in spirit, in intent. To undermine the monarchy's future for personal leverage, isn't that the very thing the crown has always feared? But while the Commission debated in shadows, Camilla was making her own moves that would only confirm their darkest suspicions. With whispers of betrayal circling, Camilla didn't retreat, she doubled down. In a shocking private meeting with royal advisors, she allegedly tried to push through changes to event protocols, guest lists, and press access, essentially freezing Catherine out of future state functions. Was it desperation, or a coup in slow motion? If the palace expected remorse, they got resolve. Just days after the Windsor banquet debacle and the secret dossier submission, Camilla initiated a closed-door strategy session with a select group of longtime allies advisors, known for their loyalty not to the crown, but to her personally. What emerged from that meeting stunned even senior courtiers. She reportedly requested to assume senior ceremonial oversight, a vague yet aggressive title that would effectively strip Catherine and William of any say over royal appearances, engagements, and symbolic traditions. The justification? Camilla cited her seniority, experience, and historical positioning. But behind those words lay a chilling message. Catherine was being erased from the script, one protocol at a time. What followed was an aggressive paper trail. Memos began circulating from Camilla's office suggesting alterations to guest lists at upcoming state visits. Certain figures known to be close to Catherine were suddenly omitted. Press invites were reshuffled. Photographers historically positioned to favour the Princess of Wales found their credentials under review. And in the background, briefings began surfacing in the tabloids, anonymous sources criticising Catherine's growing influence and media obsession, using carefully planted headlines to turn quiet admiration into public suspicion. The smear campaign had begun and it wore the scent of desperation. But not everyone stayed silent. Princess Anne, regarded as the monarchy's unyielding spine, confronted Camilla during a tense planning session for an upcoming diplomatic affair. In a voice that reportedly cut through the room like steel, she told the Queen Consort, "You're overstepping, Camilla. This isn't your kingdom." The confrontation didn't escalate, but the tension never left. Later that evening, Charles was seen leaving his private study, pale and visibly shaken. Those close to him whispered of a fiery exchange with Camilla, one that ended with him slamming the door behind her and refusing to speak for the rest of the night. The king was unraveling, caught between duty and devotion. Yet Camilla remained composed in public, unwavering in her grip behind the scenes. The machinery of influence kept turning. Royal correspondents known to be sympathetic to her narrative were suddenly granted exclusive access, while neutral journalists found themselves locked out. Every appearance by Catherine became an exercise in isolation, shorter, quieter, carefully distanced. Camilla wasn't just preserving her relevance. She was attempting to consolidate power. But while these maneuvers played out under chandeliers and behind brocade walls, the Royal Commission had finished deliberating. Every document reviewed, every video logged, every intention scrutinized. The verdict had been reached, and it didn't favor Camilla. And then, in a moment that shook the monarchy, the Commission delivered its ruling with no room for appeal. In a sealed envelope marked for the king only, the verdict arrived. By majority consensus, the Royal Commission ruled that Queen Camilla was to be barred from all future state ceremonial events. Never before had a Queen Consort been officially sidelined by royal decree. And when Charles read the words aloud, a chilling silence descended over the palace. The envelope was delivered in silence, no fanfare, no warning. A royal courier placed it directly in the king's hands during an early morning briefing, bypassing all aides. The seal alone told Charles what was inside. The Commission's verdict wasn't advisory, it was final. The carefully crafted wording in the interest of preserving institutional harmony and safeguarding the Crown's public trust. Her Majesty the Queen Consort shall, with immediate effect, cease participation in all state ceremonial functions, was surgical, precise, and unmistakably permanent. The decision cut to the heart of royal image-making. Camilla would retain her title, but not her place. She would remain Queen Consort in name, but not in presence. What followed behind palace doors was described by one senior courtier as a thunderclap. Camilla, upon learning of the ruling, erupted in fury, allegedly screaming betrayal through sobs, demanding to see the vote count, and accusing unnamed royals of orchestrating her downfall. Her rage turned to silence when she realized the truth. This wasn't a conspiracy, it was a consequence. The Commission had spoken, and even Charles couldn't overturn it. And that was the real fracture. For the first time in their marriage, the king stood at a crossroads between personal loyalty and institutional duty. He was shaken, pale, unable to speak for hours after receiving the verdict. Multiple sources confirm he met privately with William that same evening. What was said remains a mystery, but one phrase has since surfaced. William, calm and cold, reportedly told his father, "The institution must stand, even if we don't." That was the moment Charles understood there would be no reversal, no appeal. The monarchy had chosen its survival over sentiment. Hours later, in a dimly lit corridor inside Windsor, security footage later leaked anonymously captured Camilla gently folding ceremonial sashes and brooches into velvet-lined boxes. Her face was tear-streaked. Her staff stood awkwardly nearby, unsure whether to console or retreat. She wasn't being exiled to another country. She wasn't being stripped of her crown. But in the monarchy, erasure doesn't require distance, just absence. And yet, as the palace scrambled to contain the fallout, they made one critical miscalculation. They assumed the public wouldn't find out. A tightly enforced embargo kept the press at bay for nearly 48 hours, but silence is fragile in royal circles. Late that week, a single tabloid splashed the headline across its front page, "Commission bars Camilla from state ceremonies." Within hours, every outlet followed. The palace's worst fear had become reality, not the ruling, but its revelation. but the storm outside was nothing compared to the chaos within, especially when Charles made a secret late-night call to someone he had sworn never to contact again. It was a move no one saw coming. In the dead of night, King Charles picked up a secure line and dialed a number in Montecito. On the other end, Prince Harry answered. For years they hadn't spoken without lawyers in the room. But now, Charles needed his son not as a spare, but as a potential savior to the monarchy's battered image. The king sat alone, surrounded by shadows of a family that once stood united in duty and tradition. Camilla had been stripped of her ceremonial presence. William had drawn a hard line in defense of the institution. And Catherine remained silent, dignified, untouchable. But the monarchy itself, the perception, the unity, the future was cracking. Public opinion was no longer with them. Leaks had exposed the very power plays the royals had spent decades trying to bury. And in this moment of profound vulnerability, Charles turned to the one person he had once cast out, Harry. The call was brief, tense, staggered with long pauses. Harry answered with caution, not warmth. The voice on the other end, his father's, sounded older, defeated, stripped of royal grandeur. When Charles asked if he would consider returning, even briefly, to help stabilize the family's image during the fallout, Harry's response was ice cold. Now you want me to return, after everything? But beneath the bitterness, something flickered. Curiosity, hesitation, not forgiveness, but an opportunity to confront the institution that had once chewed him up and spat him out. Camilla, upon discovering the call, erupted. According to palace insiders, she called it a betrayal of loyalty and legacy. For years she had been central to Charles's decisions, his protector, his strategist, his confidant. But in that moment, she realized he had reached for the one voice that had defied her from the beginning. And worse still, he hadn't told her in advance. Meghan, however, had her own terms. She reportedly made it clear that Harry would not return alone, not even for a brief visit. If the monarchy needed their help, they would present a united front, but not as pawns, not as rebranded puppets for public repair. The Sussexes demanded transparency, dignity, and most importantly, boundaries. The negotiations were quiet, but intense. And in the end, they struck a deal, a temporary truce. One joint appearance, one carefully managed engagement, but with one devastating condition: Camilla would not be present, not in photos, not in protocol, not even mentioned. The king agreed. It was the only way forward, but it also marked something irreversible. The monarchy wasn't just reshuffling roles, it was rewriting allegiances, and the price of survival was becoming painfully clear. And just when it seemed the royal family might find peace again, a leaked letter turned the entire narrative upside down. It arrived anonymously at a major London newsroom, an unopened letter from Princess Diana, dated just weeks before her death. In it, she wrote chilling predictions about Camilla, the future of the monarchy, and the pain her sons would endure. But what stunned the public most was a line about the commission. Decades before any of this happened, the envelope was yellowed, its edges worn with time, but the seal was unmistakably royal. The journalist who opened it reportedly paused, realizing the gravity of what had just been placed in his hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten in Diana's distinct, looping cursive. Its content was both heart-wrenching and prophetic. She spoke of a looming danger, not from outsiders or the press, but from within. A woman, she wrote, who will one day eclipse decency in the name of duty and whose rise will be built on the quiet humiliation of others. The name wasn't explicitly mentioned, but everyone knew who she meant. The letter referenced an ancient power, one she had only recently been made aware of, a dormant authority that may be the monarchy's last line of defense when tradition is no longer enough. That line, obscure to the public, at first set off a frenzy. Palace historians quickly confirmed she could only have meant the Royal Commission. At the time Diana wrote those words, the Commission had not made a public ruling in over half a century. But now, in the wake of Camilla's sidelining, her warning felt like a premonition finally fulfilled. Experts authenticated the handwriting. There was no question it was real. William, when asked for comment during a tightly controlled media appearance, simply said, "My mother saw this coming." She always understood the forces at play better than anyone gave her credit for. The statement, short but seismic, cracked open a new wave of public sentiment. For those who had long seen Diana as a victim of royal rigidity, this letter recast her as something more: a seer. A mother who tried in her final days to leave behind a warning not for herself, but for her sons. The nation responded with fury. Public opinion, already strained in the wake of Camilla's exclusion, now flipped decisively. The tone was no longer curiosity, it was condemnation. Hashtags demanding full transparency trended globally. Calls to strip Camilla of her remaining ceremonial privileges resurfaced. Petitions circulated to remove her from the line of state representation entirely. The palace once again said nothing, but inside its marble halls the reckoning had begun. What made Diana's letter more than just a historical curiosity was its timing. Its emergence, coinciding with the Commission's ruling and Charles's midnight call to Harry, felt too precise to be random. Some suspected a deliberate leak by someone high within the system, someone who believed the public deserved to see what had been buried. And now that it was out, there was no turning back. And so, with Diana's words echoing through Westminster and Windsor alike, the monarchy faces a new chapter, but not one Camilla will be part of. She still holds the title. She still lives within palace walls. But Queen Camilla has become a ghost, excluded from state functions, erased from royal photos, and whispered about in the past tense. This isn't abdication, it's exile. In plain sight, and in a monarchy built on image, silence may be the cruelest sentence of all. In the weeks that followed the Commission's ruling and the public fallout from Diana's haunting letter, Camilla began to disappear, not with scandal, not with shame, but with a quietness more brutal than banishment. Her calendar cleared without announcement. Appearances once routine were simply left unattended. No press statement, no farewell tour, just absence. Her final public engagement, an arts charity visit scheduled long before the crisis played out, under the heavy air of finality. She arrived without Charles, flanked by aides who avoided eye contact, and walked the corridors with the look of a woman already written out of the story. No cameras were invited inside, no statement was released after. And when she left the building, reporters didn't shout her name. They simply watched, as if paying respect to something already gone. Inside the palace, Camilla's world had shrunk. Her private quarters remained untouched, but her influence had vanished. Meetings once filled with strategy and ceremonial plans now moved forward without her. Her voice, once central, was no longer invited. Charles aged in weeks what others age in years. The man who had fought for her place beside him now stood burdened by the very cost of that loyalty. A heavy silence grew between them, not out of anger, but from the crushing realization that the institution they had tried to reshape had reshaped them instead. In private, he continued to refer to her as my queen. But in public, she was simply not there. In Camilla's absence, a new figure stepped forward, not with fanfare, but with quiet strength. Catherine emerged not as a replacement, but as a redefinition of royalty. Her grace, her restraint, her unwavering composure during the storm had earned her more than admiration, it had cemented her legacy. She became the monarchy's stabilizer, the matriarch in waiting. Every smile, every silence, every subtle gesture recalibrated the narrative, not through dominance but through dignity. And beside her, William didn't rise by force, he rose by consistency. He became the calm in a dynasty that had known too much chaos. The heir who didn't seek power but embodied it. The public trusted him not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. And as the institution moved forward, one truth remained carved into its walls. Camilla had been queen in name, but never in memory. Her reign, such as it was, left no great scandal and no great legacy, only a cautionary tale, a lesson in image, timing, and the quiet brutality of monarchy. She was the queen who never ruled, and a family that never forgot the price of her presence now moved on without her. But in the shadows of every state banquet from now on, the echoes of this scandal will linger, forever changing what it means to wear the crown. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.